It wasn't pretty. It didn't look great for you. And he just kind of took over the game as Parker do as his TA.
And meanwhile, Thunder Awaken thrown in a mag ban at the end of phase 2 there. And, uh, Parker's played it before. They've run it in the off lane a couple of times with previous teams. Maybe not quite to the degree that we see from a Lumiere or a Yuma, but like a hero that they were sort of afraid of. And even outside of the RP threat, ET, a mag, regardless of position, who's allowed to get in there with the Empower and Bloodlust, that's just a little bit too much in the way of farming buffs.
Yeah. As well as, of course, Frank, flexibility, it's why we got that little bit of respect. And hey, well, they say if you're not going to take it, well, we certainly will. And Thunder Awaken say, yeah, Abaddon looks pretty darn good. And I've got to agree with them. Not only good answer versus the Batrider, but the same situation versus the Ogre. If they want to, let's say, shift things around, then that's a pretty nice position to be in. And again, makes me wonder why Infinity didn't want to take it in that Ogre's position, but also makes that Rubik's game feel a little bit better. There's really no bad spell for you to steal from Abaddon. Very similar situation to Omni Knight, where you'll just take it all and be very pleased.
Doesn't matter what you get as long as you take something. Meantime, for Thunder Awaken, well, I mean, they could honestly just take another support here and maybe kick the can down the road a little bit. Of course, if they do that, ET, you're running the risk of letting Infinity throw a couple more bans onto your final core position, so I don't know. I say that. The alternative is fifth picking a support, which doesn't really feel great either.
Yeah, and it's hard to say because they should probably just lead with perhaps a Mirana right now, even though I think the lane's kind of annoying versus the Ogre Magi. It's where there's probably a better pick that Thunder Awaken will go for right now. I think the Snapfire would also fill that bill, but the
Mm.
Shadow Fiend, and we'll see. And no, they switch things up a little bit, and then again puts a question mark over the head of the Doom as to whether or not he is going to be a core support. With the NP coming out, very, very different. Not to mention NP versus Batrider, typically a matchup that we don't see teams go for just because of, well, the ease of the Batrider to get on top of you and typically kill you off. It's a very easy gank for Leo style to make. And of course, puts the question, what are our lanes actually going to be here for Thunder Awaken? Very odd choice. While Infinity, they keep it extremely basic. Just take the Beastmaster, another hero again that makes the Nature's Prophet feel not so consistent. You've got Hawks flying around. You want to get the Ag Shard, have an easy cancel if the Hawks ever venture to near that Nature's Prophet at all. And again, it is just simple, easy to play. Rubik Beastmaster lane, Batrider mid, Ogre 5. Thunder Awaken are definitely trying something here.
Hmm. Well, see how this plays out. We get into the final stage of the bans, both sides focusing in on some damage dealers with the PA banned by Thunder Awaken, and that kind of leads back into a little bit of what we were saying before with the Ogre, right? You pick this Ogre up, you kind of have to get some sort of right-click hero, then you factor in the Beastmaster with the Aura as well, so Thunder Awaken, no. Let's not let too many of those just pure physical damage dealers through, but I don't know. You really can't ban them all. They'll take out the PL, but still quite a bit on the table. But ET, looking at Infinity's lineup, because they will have last overall pick here, do they want something that's just all in on damage? Do they want something that maybe is a middle ground, look to like a CK or Sven sort of situation? What do you think that they should do here?
Yeah, I think Sven is honestly a pretty solid option for them. And interestingly, Infinity are the ones that ban out the Naga Siren. And
Hmm.
of course, Thunder Awaken, they've run this before, and it looks like it probably should just be the NP3 and then the Doom 4, something that Michael is probably very comfortable with. He is a guy that just likes his melee heroes straight up, as well as Illich just playing NP a lot in the tournament so far. But I'm trying to think of their final carry, and we will see because both teams do need their carry and
Okay.
they go for Pudge, which again doesn't need to be their mid laner. I feel like has to be their carry in this situation. And of course, versus Beastmaster, Pudge has been one of the neat answers, and that's a real quick pick.
Hmm.
And they say, we're gonna put you on a hard timer here. You cannot afford to go late versus us, and that is your bloodlusted attack speed buffed, annoying carry who will take this game late, does have to play versus a Pudge. So, of course, repositioning wise, the Thunder Awaken have that tool going for them. But I feel like Parker's the exact hero he wants, as well as getting the new Snake versus those Treants. So, Illich gotta have to be real careful with his positioning because you'll get
Right.
slapped by that Snake. It's not gonna be fun. I think really gonna be a difficult lane for Frank. This is one of the best heroes you can pick as the carry versus that Beastmaster, but everything else kind of has to go right for them. And this is certainly more of a tempo lineup for Thunder Awaken, where I think Infinity, it's the same way they try to win pretty much always. Just Leo Style and Frank, just chaos creators. Parker, it's gonna farm till the cows come home, and then we're either going to be winning or we are going to be losing at 25 minutes. If we get past that point, though, this game stretches out to second, third rows, 35, 40 minutes, then Infinity almost 100% have this.
As you said, a hard timer that they're trying to sort of put in place here for the final match of both teams' run. Final match of the group stage in general. Infinity still trying to play here for that #1 seed. And Thunder Awaken, unfortunately, their shot at the #1 overall seed did kind of pass them by, but they can still affect their positioning a little bit here because we were doing the math during the break. So let me see if I've got this correctly. If the math is correct, which I know, big risk, but if Infinity wins this game, they are first. 5-Rat second, Thunder Awaken finishes third, and then Wildcard are fourth. If Thunder Awaken take the 1-1 split here, then it's 5-Rat first, Thunder Awaken second, Infinity third, and Wildcard in fourth. So yeah, there's still some room for both teams to move here up or down in the absolute last game. We'll see who makes it happen.
Oh, and we'll see. It should be an interesting game nonetheless, though, because, of course, for that space for the Medusa to be made, Hero's got to be dying. Hero's got to be feeding almost in this game. And I also do wonder how Frank's going to do, because in direct lane matchups, Frank, as a player, honestly, has struggled a lot. When he has absolutely nothing to work with, he has been, I think, struggling to prove his worth in some situations, and especially BTS Pro Series of past. And this is, again, probably your one-to-one counter. This is where Knight can just do whatever he wants to you, especially if he can get an early Vanguard. There's just very little hope for the Beastmaster in that situation.
Oops, was that me?
Ready to go here. Bounty runes end up going 3 over to the side of Thunder Awaken, so yeah, they get a slight edge to start the laning stage, but see what they can do pressure-wise at this stage as we get things underway. I don't really know 100% what to expect here from these lanes, ET. Taking a look at top first, Frank and Genek. There's a little bit of potential here, but it depends on who they really go for, because Excel could just be in a position where any aggression gets turned around by the Aphotic Shield, so I feel like on the Infinity side they have to be very selective in terms of which opportunities they actually want to commit for.
Nope, definitely do. Need to be very careful, especially because level 1, level 2 spells don't do that much, so might as well just bide their time, but we'll see.
Well, over on the other side, Prada is doing Ogre Magi things, pushing right up into people's faces, trying to do some damage. He honestly got hit pretty hard here in return, but I mean, he had 2 full stacks of tangos when he came to the lane, so he knew this was going to be the way that this plays out. He's just trying to find Parker as much farm as possible, but this is the thing for Thunder Awaken. They've got the Treants, they've got, or will have, a point in the Devour, so there is still some potential for them to try and keep equilibrium on their side.
Definitely, but it's also unfortunate. Prada wants to have Ignite, but just tried for the level 1 Fire Blast to attempt to stop Michael from blocking out both of those camps, but then Michael's just too fast with the boots, so kind of an unfortunate miscalculation, but isn't the worst case scenario, and as will happen, the waves kind of push, and I'm surprised that Prada actually let the small camp spawn, and Michael will see it. It's not the ideal creep, but if Michael is ever able to devour the mana burn creep, that's when this Medusa is really going to be in dire straits. Chain Lightning's not bad. It's a lot of great chip damage, but once that mana burn creep is online, that's when Michael really just becomes the annoying beast that is going to make it almost impossible for Parker to stay up here.
Yeah, just throwing out the lightning a little bit here. As you said, some chip damage here and there, make Parker not feel threatened. That's probably not really the way to go about it, but just remind him that the potential pressure is there, so he's not entirely free farming in this lane. But the real question will be when and if Illich looks for the Sprout plays here, because that'll really be the indicator of just how aggressive this duo feels they can be if they actually take the Sprout to try and force some sort of trap or engagement versus Illich maybe just ignoring it and focusing on the treants.
Yeah, so far though, great damage on the Parker, making him a little bit more annoyed, but still making these plays happen while the Medusa's low level and forcing Prada to stick here and babysit him because he has to. He can't afford to walk away.
He's frozen in the lane for a little bit. Meanwhile, well, we take a look at the mid matchup here, Leo Style versus Alone. As of right now, yeah, the SF is getting an edge in the last hits, and as long as he's got raises, that's probably going to remain the case. Leo Style doesn't really outfarm Shadow Raises Shadow Fiend.
Yeah, and Alone not getting greedy either, but hold that, because top lane, it's happens, and they won't go any deeper. Very respectful, not wanting to give any more damage, and of course, the stacks getting up there with the wild axes, but that's the lane. At least they do not kill the Beastmaster. If they killed Frank, that would have stalled up that Helm of Iron Will, and he does drop some regen for the Rubik to bring over to him, but still have to tread lightly in this situation.
First blood goes to Thunder Awaken. And while Illich does now have this play to work with. TP home, then use his own personal TP back into lane, so you are going to have that edge in terms of his ability to just sort of top himself off compared to Parker, who will need either himself or Prada to just kind of ferry out more regen to him, but I don't know. It's a nice advantage that the Prophet almost always has in his lane. It just may not matter too much here, especially since they're really not slowing Parker down all that much. As another kill goes down top, Excel, they get punished this time. Frank finds the pickoff, and that ties up the score, and well, that's what happens if Knight's not in the area. He can't really help as Prada falls back down bot, bouncing back and forth between these side lanes. ET, they are starting to ramp up the aggression a little bit.
Yeah, just everybody really low, a lot of mana expended, just lots of trading, lots of early trading going on. Of course, the death, you always question who it favors, because now Parker gets a little bit of some support, and Prada will be able to heal up his teammate and move some of that aggression elsewhere, but still pretty happy with that situation. And Alone, okay, random Rubik stole his 3-minute rune, so he says, okay, sure, I'm gonna kill you. Alone doesn't even have a bottle. He just was kind of walking over there to stack and maybe pick it up, because yeah, again, he just has a stick and just been using his stick for the mana, but it's been enough so far. I don't know, he just killed Genic.
Yeah, Genic, so Genic Fade bolted to steal Alone's creep, and then honestly just straight up tried to run away at that point, but Alone hit him with the races, and Genic got punished for it. So is the last hit that he stole worth dying immediately afterwards? I don't know if the math checks out on that, but it was funny as hell. I'll give him that much. And meanwhile, Frank, on the run. Knight wants a free kill. Had to get clear for the hook. Able to make the play, but Genic is coming over. There's the telekinesis. It's going to push him back, and really, that's the end of the fight. Or maybe it's not, because Leo Style is kind of waiting in the wings, seeing if he can get in here. And yeah, Excel, I mean, you can try, but this is not going to work.
Nope. Goes down. Of course, Pudge gets to bring the creep equilibrium all the way back to his tier 1, so isn't too upset with that situation, but is still. Poor Frank just hasn't gotten to touch the creep wave in a little bit, even though his last hits are pretty great nonetheless, but it's still nowhere near the other cores in this game.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rough one, but hey. If they can free him up a little bit of space, we know the Beastmaster can farm up pretty quickly once he's got that Dom Helm, or if he just decides not to farm, then pushing a tower might just be able to even up that gap. At the same time, though, Leo Style didn't have to use the lasso onto Excel in that excursion up top, so now he's got it for bottom, but Parker might just die before he gets here. Yeah, I mean, Leo Style can come in now, look for some revenge with the lasso play, but Michael is not worth losing your carry.
No, Parker's just all the way up way too far, just thinking that Leo Styles probably able to connect a little bit sooner, but then you get to feel the damage, and now Illich, he's level 6, so gotta be careful. This Wrath of Nature, it's gonna come in right now, and it's gonna be to kill Frank. And there you go. Comes through. Easiest kill in the world.
Knight's the one to get it as well, so he puts a little bit of extra gold in his pocket, as well as the stack of flesh heap. And they're on to the tier 1. The glyph, yeah, well used here. They'll get it back if the tower falls, and at the rate they're going, it does seem like the tower will fall. They've got the armor reduction, they're getting the curse onto it. Yeah, level 1 curse, but it's better than nothing, and they will claim the objective.
Yeah, just extremely simple, extremely efficient plays, just knowing that it's time to go. And again, your Beastmasters still having a real tough time. It's where now they probably don't want to continue to grief him. It might be time to now move across the map and then put that pressure onto the Medusa, but well, they're stealing some stacks now. And Leo Style, well, he's here, but I don't think you can do much tonight except for kick him out. At least Leo Style has his boots of travel pretty much now.
I'm just about done with those as Excel. Well, Genic spots him, but Leo Style wouldn't really have any mana left to work with, so just gonna have to back it off. Excel doubles back to drop down a sentry, try and block that camp up a bit, and well, now looking for even more. Sentry down to block the camp, then the sentry to take away the opposing sentry on the high ground, so they really are investing a lot into this west side jungle area, which, well, I mean, it makes sense, right, ET? There's a Bat Rider, there's a Dusa, that is the sort of just golden farming area, and if you can keep vision on it, or maybe even more importantly, just take it away outright, the resources of your opponents go down pretty significantly. However, we do have a bit of a fight breaking out here. Illich is in some trouble down in the bottom lane. He threw the Wrath of Nature out before he died, but there's no one to follow it up.
Yeah, and very little committed. Leo Style still has his lasso, was really just a flame break, and then punishing the overextension, already kind of low NP, so that's a pretty much free kill there for him. But at the same time, you're getting the jungling going. Knight is still in an empty lane. Frank can't really move himself there, so he's completely retreated to the jungle. And during all of this, Alone is just playing this pretty much like a carry Shadow Fiend, because nobody else is farming the Ancients. Might as well be him, because Knight is still occupying that other side. So just really efficient stuff. Thunder Awakening are just simply getting more out of the map right now.
And it's kind of interesting looking back at Michael. He's still got the Chain Lightning, so we talked about it being relatively useful enough where if he can't find the mana burn, he didn't really want it. Although I suppose if he finds the War Stomp from a Centaur creep, he might take that. But over in the middle lane, Alone, he's getting jumped on. This is not an easy kill. They may not get it. Alone channels out the Requiem, and the Fear pushes everyone away. That's Roar deployed. They don't really get a whole lot out of it. I suppose the Requiem cooldown is traded, and it is a longer cooldown, but well, now there's really no threat coming out from your Beastmaster for a little bit.
Yeah, and then tries to get aggressive on the mid tower, but gets cleaned up with his creeps. So now it's Frank back to the jungle and still on that road to recovery. And we'll have to see how they decide to translate, because right now Frank is effectively taking from the Medusa. Parker wants to take over mid. He's got some stacks to keep him busy right now, but eventually the Beastmaster is gonna have to move. The Medusa's home is in the mid lane now. Leo still takes bottom, and then Frank should eventually be confident enough to go back towards top, but still feels scared of giving his life away. And during this entire time, Knight is just very quickly making his way towards that Ags, is only a point booster away.
Pretty damn close. Illich, meanwhile, closing in on an Orchid, so well, these items come through, and all of a sudden, Thunder Awaken are going to start to get quite a bit more aggressive. And that's not even taking into account Michael is more than halfway to a Blink Dagger too, so timings are all coming together here, but I don't know about defending this tower. They're going to give it a go. Telekinesis does pull Alone forward a bit. Now they get him with the stun, but yeah, little bit of a rough one. Parker has to pop the Stone Gaze. If they get this tower, it'll all be worth it. Yeah, the tower goes down, right? I suppose at the end of the day that mission is accomplished, but not really going to get much in the way of gold from it.
Yeah, right now they just need to try and help Leo Style find his way onto a target, whether it be Pudge in his jungle or getting back onto Illich. Yeah, he's the one that really hasn't found another play aside from the nifty things he was able to do whenever those tier 1s were alive. But until we see that next engagement for the Bat Rider, it's hard to tell where this game's going, because it still feels like there's not enough space for the cores on Infinity to really get the net worth that they need, while items are just getting finished left, right, and center for Thunder Awaken. It just worries me how little is getting built up for Infinity right now. Just coming at a much, much slower pace. And it's not like they're smoked, but Thunder Awaken are moving in right now and looking to kick out these heroes that, again, are farming much slower. So going from farming slowly to farming nothing, it's where Infinity could very easily just go towards top, but they're afraid of giving away this map control.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, it feels like something just needs to be done here if you're Infinity, because you would look at this and you would say, oh, you know, Parker's still farming, that's good news, but the plan was always to have Parker farm. The thing was you were supposed to have the Bat and the Beastmaster to go around making plays while Parker farmed, and that isn't really coming about, which is why those two heroes in particular have such lower net worth. But can they just force a play? I mean, is that even an option to them, or do they have to look for some other way into these engagements?
Well, they're certainly attempting. They're smoked up yet again here, but Michael's standing in the most annoying spot possible, popping the smoke, and now looking in. They would love to jump Illich immediately, but this is just not it. Orchid's here, the Ags is here. They should know that there's no good way for them to team fight right now, and yeah, they decide to cut and run. They TP'd out to both side lanes, and they'll get pretty far out, but now the option is don't get caught. Don't get yourself killed on these side towers now, because if you do, you are extremely split. And this is where, if maybe Infinity were better set up, they could look to punish the Pudge, who is completely by himself in the top lane, who is going to walk on the Medusa. And let's see, it's going to be an attempt, but it's a retreat. And Prada, well, see ya.
Left behind. Knight gets the free kill. Parker walks away, just says, thank you for your sacrifice, Prada. But you know, I mean, plays like that, it's fine because it keeps Parker farming, but at a certain point, Thunder Awaken are going to start looking for a little bit more. They've already cleaned up all the Tier 1 towers, so you don't have those initial objectives to really sort of hold them back and slow them down anymore. They're going to start looking for more and more valuable plays as this goes on, and I don't think Michael has revealed this Blink Dagger just yet on the Doom either, so he's going to lose his smoke in a second, but if he stays relatively sneaky, Blink Doom could be coming their way before they realize it's up.
Yeah, and this is the other option. If they're going to keep dodging us, then Infinity, they are 100% allowed to just Roche. It's where NP is still an extremely valuable hero, and then with the Abaddon coming in as well, Curse is going to pop, and then it's not like we're getting any defense right now. Even just using the Nature's Wrath to keep these waves relatively pushed in, they'll have to deal with mid and bottom, but that's farm that they're willing to take in first stages of the game. Thunder Awaken's game plan is just undisturbed. We're waiting maybe for BKBs or Blink Daggers, and I say that, but they're going for even later items, and well, Prada goes down, and now Parker,
Silence.
This is what's not allowed.
Yep.
Oh no.
They get through the shield pretty quickly. Where's the reinforcement? Scannic's going to come in, trying to make some space with telekinesis. Will that be enough, though? Not really looking like it. Parker is surrounded and taken down, and yeah, the early Orchid, we didn't really get to see it a crazy amount of times just because of the lower kill count, but a situation like that, Illich is able to make the most of it. Now they're onto that objective, and well, this is exactly what we were sort of warning about for the Infinity side. If you don't make some plays, if you don't do something, Thunder Awaken are just going to take it upon themselves to be the ones choosing when and where the fights happen.
Yeah, and all of this control, not going to get de-warded necessarily because A doesn't have that much range. And Genic, ooh, okay. Getting a little bit crazy here, but blinks out. They disengage completely. They're still on the run, but they should be able to make that run happen. Blink Dagger on Pudge as well. Maybe they find the Doom here. Michael would be the easy target, and yeah, they just say, that is going to be our easy kill. Gets the Steel Scorched Earth as well. Honestly, pretty large steal for Genic, just because so much damage he can actually do, but aside from that, all of the cores escape. Doesn't lose the Pudge, which is probably the big kill that Infinity would have looked for.
And they just sort of clear out of the area, losing Doom. Really not even that unfortunate considering he already has the Blink Dagger, so that was kind of the big item that you would be saving up the most money for, and he's already passed the hurdle, so are we feeling alright about that? In the meantime, that is a Manta, picked up by Parker, so the Medusa continues to farm ET. You can never deny that aspect, but he's not the top net worth hero anymore. He's not clearly outpacing everyone else on the map anymore, and that becomes a bit of an issue, because this is the guy who is, at this point, your best hope of really swinging any momentum.
Yeah, and of course, the name of the game is going to be just to wait. I'm just surprised that Leo Style decided to not go for BKB in this game. And I understand there is a Doom and there is a Pudge, so it's where Blinking Sphere probably takes quite the uptick in value, but it's where there just simply isn't a play. There's no Blink Dagger, there's no BKB, you don't want team fights, you don't want any fight really at this point. At least they're doing a good job with Frank right now of keeping pressure, real easy pressure onto that tier 2 top, but oh, look at mid. Knight tempted, whiffed onto the Batrider, which will then probably cost them their top tower, but Thunder Awaken, they've already claimed your bottom tower. They're ahead of the exchange, so they're just going to look for mid now, and the only play that Infinity really have is to just keep Frank pestering that top tier 3 and hope that somebody makes a mistake and TP's back. Problem is it really a mistake when there's an NP in the game? I am not so sure.
And now Alone's going to get to work, hitting on that tier 3 tower. Mask of Madness active for a few more seconds, so it's already lost half of its health. They're even going to glyph, make sure the creep wave stays alive, get a little bit of extra damage in. That lasso does still connect, however. But even if they take him down, it's just the first life. But Alone, well, he doesn't have any backup. The only person here is Illich, and he just actually TP'd away. So they are just straight up going to abandon Alone. Let's see if he can do anything with this. He goes for the Requiem. That sets up the fear. He'll look for the TP, and he makes it out. Genic. That play might have actually worked, but the timing's a little bit off. His stolen Requiem doesn't hit, and somehow Alone gets away with that one. -1 Aegis, but doesn't get punished a second time.
Yeah, and certainly losing the Aegis is not ideal, especially because Roche probably had, another 2 minutes or so on it, but it could be worse. And Alone gonna take a much more defensive approach going forward, but his team got even more kills. They got more vision down. They were able to close in that top side of the map and kick out the Beastmaster completely, who wasn't there to actually get the roar. So Thunder Awaken are trying to instigate another team fight here on their terms and then get that focus back on mid. And depending on how that mid fight goes, well, they're just going to swing immediately for bottom. And, well, Prada, you showed for a second again, and nobody is here to help you. There's very little sympathy for the Ogre. And yet again, feels like they're going to lose more of their wards and more of their vision. They just keep on fighting and switching which side of the map they're playing on. Now they're going to be huddled around this top observer, but I feel like they're going to swing for these objectives towards bottom and mid now, and Alone does not care. He's just hitting, and Leo Style forced to TP out of bottom with the pressure of the NPs coming in, and that chokehold is getting stronger and stronger. The only thing they can really wait for now is Parker to have his Scotty, which is still maybe another 2,000 gold away. If Thunder Awaken can somehow hit that timing before the Scotty, well, they probably have a free 2 racks ahead of them.
Infinity grouping up, feeling the need to try and either mount a defense or maybe go hunting here. Do they have a smoke? Yes, they do. But where do they go? Directly into the Abba. The single worst target you possibly could have gone for that smoke gank with. And they're not even going to kill him. Excel just TPs away, and that absolutely sucks for Infinity. Just nothing gained by that whatsoever.
Yeah, getting some D-wards, getting D-wards in the lane as well. Very important, but It's becoming time to find something, and actually, looking at top, they are going to scout at that Rider. Real cheeky ward that is going to see him making maybe a play on Illich here. It's a bait within a bait right now. There's no BKB on the Pudge, so he can't just stick, but they're going to find the Rubik as well. Oh, this is the worst.
Rubik gets doomed. Leo Style just has to run. And I think Leo Style does make it away, but only because they spot Frank coming up the ramp, so they will kill him. And Illich says, I didn't say you could leave yet. Gonna hit him up with the silence. He needs the Sprout, though, but he's not really in range for it.
Lincoln 1, waiting for the hook.
There's the hook. It hits a creep, so Leo Style able to get himself away, but it costs him 2 teammates to make that escape.
Yeah, and they run past their creep wave, so not like that top lane is immediately going to be back under pressure, but every time Thunder Awaken, they just see 3 or 4 heroes, so the rest of the lineup can just farm. They take that fight knowing that, yeah, Alone doesn't need to be there if he doesn't want to. He can just use his TPs to farm, and he will continue to farm and become that incredibly strong SF we know and love. And of course, we are getting closer and closer, and it looks like Parker isn't going to have to worry about playing the rest of this game without a Scotty. That's only 200 gold away, but will the rest of the lineup be ready to take this next Roche fight is going to be the more awkward question, and will Thunder Awaken just have simply too many items? Because as we speak right now, Leostyle is looking for a full Octarine core on this Bat Rider. We are not looking at a BKB on Frank. We're looking at 0 spell immunity across the board here. While we have 2 BKBs on Thunder Awaken, just numbers-wise, it just doesn't look good for Infinity, no matter how you square it up. And we'll have to see what this Roche is. Of course, the later, the better for Infinity, but no matter how you slice it, it feels like Infinity just aren't doing enough with the rest of their lineup. As top, okay, gets forced back, has the Firefly. Of course, Firefly, not going to be able to sprout him whenever he has that going, but will they look for a fight? There's 3 heroes smoked, but again, without a Blink Dagger, how do you actually jump? Infinity just very stubbornly are not finding creative ways to get into these team fights.
And they just don't have a means to get in right now, and it really seemed like too many of them are transitioning the build to try and get something to actually help on that front. Genek's really the closest one with his Blink Dagger about 150 gold away, but I mean, it can work, and it's better than no initiator ET, but if you are saying our position 4 Rubik is our only way into the fights, those fights probably will not be going well for you.
Oh, and here we go. It's another cross-map smoke, and they see Illich towards bottom, and okay, Orchid comes through, and Leostar says, I have an Octarine core, and Alone just decides to beat him to death.
Well, they didn't quite
on the
get
run
it.
now.
But Parker just revealed himself, so they know that the Medusa's now in the field. Alone's going to look to get into the tree line, channel out the Requiem. It hits Prada. Other than that, though, that's a whiff. Now the hook comes in, but only hits the boar, and well, Infinity may have accidentally found an initiation here. They get the roar onto Illich, they'll take him down, and what else can they get? Leo Style is trying to push forward, but he's pushing forward with barely any HP. I don't know if he actually wants a fight if he finds somebody, and there you go. You got close enough to maybe lasso Knight, but if you get the lasso off, you may just have ended up killing yourself.
Yeah, and hey, they get past the scary situation, and like you said, kind of accidentally find a good initiation, and then Illich can't BKB TP, he's just too low, even though that would have been an option versus the Dusa, but that's where Parker with his Scotty is a force to be reckoned with, and that's also where Thunder Awaken, hoping that the Roche had spawned a minute ago, is not there for them to claim. So now this is dead air. This is time where Infinity can wait an entire minute. You would probably say that they should smoke and then check just to make sure their opponents aren't roaching for absolutely free, even though Infinity are making no attempt whatsoever to check it out just yet, but they will eventually decide to move, decide to see what's going on over there, and that could be Infinity's moment to flip the game on its head, because if they get the Aegis, if Parker's able to stone gaze and sit inside the pit, then that's your punish, and that's your easy way to take this game immediately under your control.
Yep. Now we see the smoke come out. They're going to make their way over. 10 seconds for Roshan. Hello, Michael. That's it's a nice BKB you got there, but it doesn't really help. Lasso comes through. They find the kill. Frank gets it. Now they're going to look for a little bit more. Without the lasso, this could get complicated, but Knight's actually going to jump in first. The Requiem now channeled out as well, hitting up onto 4, pushing them all back with the fear. Hook from Knight actually does not hit. Genek will still end up going down on the Infinity side, but This fight's starting to get a little bit weird. Alone, yeah, left all alone. His teammates just back off of him, and well, Parker just marches his way through this entire engagement, and oh no, Knight! That's an awkward play. He tries to go for the hook, misses it, now tries to TP home, and is going to be able to make it out. So he's not punished for the greed, but in a way he is, because, well,
This is gonna sting.
Roche is back up, and Thunder Awaken are in no position to contest it.
Yeah, it's where the one man without a BKB who died because of it, that being your boy alone, just shows that without that item, this really is one of those games where you will just die straight up, and, well, you've thrown your single most important factor away if you're Thunder Awaken. Now you've got an Aegis on Parker. Now the guy who wins both the Pudge matchup and the Shadow Fiend matchup has a free Aegis and a Shard, and is continuing to build himself up. Has a full crit coming out on the Courier as well. Not the full Daedalus, but is really looking to just turn this game around. And now, all those luxury items we were complaining about not having before, Gannick's got his blink. You've got a blink on the Batrider whenever he wants it. I think Frank also could be looking for a blink, or could be looking for just another large item. This is where Thunder Awaken just threw away their easy game by not pressing the issue hard enough. And we'll see, because this is the punish.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Can't do that, but it's okay. Now Michael, well, he would be KB, but I think he's just going to eat the death instead. Frank's dead, though.
Knight's able to get something going for him, but he had to use the Dismember for it, so now he'll look for the TP out under the cover of the BKB. Overall, not so bad if you're Thunder Awaken, right? Support for a core. Alone, though, making me nervous, bud. Dangerously close to the sentry coverage there, but he's going to walk away in time.
Oh, and gotta be careful.
Or
There's a
maybe
stolen
he's
Dismember
not.
right now.
Yeah, hold on a second. Here comes Parker in with the Stone Gaze. Excel gets taken down first. Knight was able to get off a very, very well-timed defensive hook, so that's Stone Gaze used, and you only lose the support for it. Not so bad if you're Thunder Awaken, but they are really getting pushed into a defensive position more and more.
Yeah, and they're not getting punished for this insane greed on all of their items. They now can go back for the good items, and Knight tried for a blink onto the Batrider bottom that, well, would have caught him. He would have probably been dead, but whiffs by an inch, and now immediately your towers are all under pressure. The net worth lead is dwindling. You're thinking about what your next power spike's going to be, and it's probably going to be a BKB or more damage from Alone, and he finishes off the complete Silver Edge, so again, more damage, but if Alone can't hit anybody in these team fights, then what's the use? And now your tier 3 is under siege. They know that they can kind of hit this right now, and unless you go for a jump, one that really is just going to be a hook from Knight, well, you don't have initiation of your own, Thunder Awaken. And there's the hook, sidestepped, easy, and your tier 3 is broken.
It's about as easy as it gets. Parker didn't even really have to do anything other than taking a step to the left, and Thunder Awaken, you are getting into dangerous territory here. Momentum is beginning to shift. Parker is a very, very large individual, and I think he's going for the Silver Edge with that crit upgrade. Yeah, he is. So, well, that could make things quite complicated for the rest of Thunder Awaken's lineup. The break onto Knight, onto Abba, really onto anybody is Michael. He's going to try and make a move in. They did drop the Doom onto the Dusa, but, well, who cares? Parker just keeps on fighting. He's pushing his way in. They got the lasso onto Knight that's going to pull him out of the base. The Pudge in some trouble. A stolen Dismember keeps him locked down long enough for Parker to find the kill. And Pudge does not have buyback. Thunder Awaken may have just straight up lost this game. Yeah, that's it. They call GG then and there, and well, ET Infinity made us wait until the absolute last game, but we now know who that #1 seed is. It is going to be this Infinity lineup.
Well, if you're 5-rat, rip 5-rat, I suppose. This is the worst case scenario for them, but no, just a really nice 2-0. Of course, a frustrating game 1, but game 2, they just got away with it, and they weren't getting away with it. They were getting run down. The first 15 minutes of this game was a slaughter fest, where Thunder Awaken pretty much won every single lane and then continued to farm everywhere, absolutely everywhere, which looked awful. It looked like Infinity didn't have a candle to stand on, but then the play stopped. Suddenly, you weren't getting any map control. You didn't have a reason to split up if you were Infinity, and then they decide to bank everything on that Roche fight. And of course, you look over at Alone, who has a Manta style, doesn't want to go for a BKB, thinks he's getting away with it, but he's not getting away with anything. And they lose really, I think, solely because of him. And of course, look at him, one death. How could he be the reason they lost? That's absurd. What's going on? But because of his lack of a BKB in this game, the timings don't sync up. We don't see them definitively win a team fight in that mid game. And then worst case scenario plays out where you give Infinity an Aegis and then the Medusa just walks it down. And that's exactly what happened. She walked it down. Parker never stopped farming. The Medusa succeeded.
The Medusa does what they wanted her to do. Parker, I mean, he's used to this by now, right? This is his kind of calling card play style. The rest of the team had to step up and buy in the time. They do exactly that. And Thunder Awaken, despite their best efforts, were never able to push the tempo in the direction that they needed it to go.
No, not at all. And well, cool. We did it. They did it. They got the #1 seed. Infinity's happy. And I think Parker, especially, just very pleased with this team coming forward. But now it's time to look at the big dogs, your EGs, your Beast Coast. That's where the new games lie.
Mm-hmm. And we are taking a little bit of a moment here to get that bracket set up. We will be showing that to you in just a second. Before we do so, however, we're going to take a swap on over to that other screen. We can show you at least what the group stage standings look like at the end of all of this. In terms of who goes where, in terms of Phase 2 versus Phase 3, we kind of knew that already. Infinity, 5-Rat, Thunder Awaken, and Wildcard will be the 4 to advance. And again, if we did our math correctly, what you see on the screen right now should be the actual order of seeding as well. So it's Infinity in first, 5-Rat second, Thunder Awaken third, and Wildcard fourth. So, ET, I will say, if you're in Thunder Awaken's shoes right now, you already knew you were going to Phase 3 at the start of today, right? This has to feel like a little bit of a disappointment. You had 4 games, you had a chance to claim the #1 seed outright, and you end up going, what, 1-3, and finishing in third isn't bad, but it could have been more.
No, definitely could have been. And I think, especially in the Dog Champ series, certainly losing a little bit of the plot there and losing versus a game that's already eliminated might not be the best sign. But, at the end of the day, we'll see what they're actually able to do. And again, square things away draft wise. Like we keep saying, playoff changes everything. It doesn't feel like it should, but once you're in that best of 3, that's where the idea of we cannot lose, we have to win, we have to pull out everything, we have to know who we're playing up against. The margin for error just slims up that much. And Thunder Awaken, they don't want to be that team that gets 2-0 twice and then you're out of the tournament. There's always one team that does that in BTS Pro Series, but Thunder Awaken, they're not looking to be it.
And, well, I believe we've got it ready now, so we will take a look at the tentative bracket, which I say that because it's still dependent on whether we did our math correctly. So, technically speaking, this could change. But if the math was correct, here is the bracket coming up on your screen right now for Phase 3. Obviously, we had the quartet of TSM, Beast Coast, EG, and Nouns, who were directly invited to this phase. They're joined by the 4 teams that we were just talking about advancing out of Phase 2, and you can see what the matchups are going to look like. It'll be TSM versus 5-Rat, Beast Coast versus Thunder Awaken, EG versus Wildcard, and Nouns versus Infinity. So, well, honestly, ET, all of those matchups look and sound pretty damn good. Of course, for TSM and for Nouns, we don't have the public announcement of their full lineups just yet, so maybe those ones are question marks, but across the board, these should be some spectacular matchups to kick off Phase 3.
No, for sure. Answer a lot of questions, see where a lot of these teams lie before the next DPC, as BTS Pro Series always seems to be that early warning sign for teams that are looking great, that are maybe looking not so great, but also getting to see these early rosters play. Always a joy to see.
Be some pretty interesting stuff, as we will swing it back on over to us. Hello again. So those are your matchups. Again, if our math was wrong, there will be an updated correct bracket out sometime in the near future. But I do want to say we are taking a little bit of a break before we do push into Phase 3. In the Americas region, at least, we do not have any games scheduled for tomorrow. The playoffs are going to start on the 4th, and that should be the same start time that we've been really going with across the entirety of Phases 1 and 2, so a 1 p.m. Pacific time start. But, yeah, that'll be that. Playoff bracket coming our way, but ET, with Phase 2 now in the rear view mirror, looking ahead to that playoff bracket as well, I guess, do you have any sort of big takeaway? Anybody that you thought particularly over or underachieved in this group stage?
I still think gotta keep an eye out for 5 rat. Gotta look at especially Speed, the captain, the drafter, the offlaner who somehow is able to do whatever he wants. I think he's definitely one of the drivers and one of the people to definitely keep an eye on. We'll probably hear from him at least once or twice once we get into that playoff stage. But
Mhm.
also, maybe not the people that have qualified, but also, man, RCY. I just will keep on wanting to shout out. He's so young. He's so good. He's not playing anymore. He got eliminated with Dog Champ, but even today, just keeping the highlights with people that played today, I'm just so excited to see what he's able to accomplish in the future once Dog Champ's actually able to do it. But in terms of the playoffs, I'm just waiting for EG. I better see a grand red carpet from EG's Twitter. They better treat these boys like kings because they didn't treat the last boys like kings. Some hot shade, you know? No, I'm kidding. But no, I hope that they're treating them well, and I'm very curious to see how they actually are treating them and whether or not this has been just a life-changing experience for a lot of those EG boys. It's going to be a pleasure to hear from them.
Yeah, having an organization of that degree of size and reach across uh, spaces far outside of even their home region is something that honestly could, make the team look, play, feel a little bit different. And as you said, for a lot of these players, could very well be a life-changing kind of event. But uh, we'll see how well they actually play Dota, because at the end of the day, that is going to be the final defining thing for this squad. EG picking them up is massive, but you still got to go out there, still got to win some Dota games. So we will get to see starting on Sunday. But for now, we are going to hop on out of here. That is Phase 2 officially done and dusted. So thank you all so much for joining myself and ET, along with our Cryptic and Neff, who are not here now, but pulled more than their fair share in that group stage as well. So thank you all so much for watching. Hope you join us for Phase 3. But for now, enjoy the start of your weekend, and we'll see you later.